Welcome back to the Fearless Females Voice podcast. On this episode, I am joined by recently turned mum, Kimberley Banner. Kimberley loves everything social media related, so set up an account sharing her motherhood journey, which quickly became popular for her openness and honesty. She has connected many women from all over the world to help and support them through their own pregnancy journeys. On this podcast, Kimberley talks about her journey of becoming pregnant, how she felt, her experiences of the birth, being a mother, and not to forget advice and tips. I learned many new things from speaking to her, and I'm sure this will benefit so many other women. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. So Kimberley, tell me, what does being a fearless female mean to you?
So being a fearless female is just being unapologetically yourself, because that's the only way to me that I feel like anybody should be. There's no pressure to be anybody else. There's no aspiration to be anyone else but yourself. And to be fearless, don't get me wrong, I do get my own fears. However, the way that I push through my fears is by being so open and honest, and that's probably why we're on this podcast together, to have a discussion about honesty and just being real on social media and stuff, because I think that's my superpower by being a fearless female, that I just own what is happening. There's nothing that's gonna kind of distract me from being authentic.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think you've absolutely nailed it as well, which is, as you said, why this podcast has come about. And we'll go into a bit more of that a little later on. So I know you've recently become a mother, and I can see just how much you love your son, Elliot, and and just how the journey that you've gone through as well. But before we dive into that, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
So I'm 30 years old, turned 30 last January. And I am a social media manager and social media coach that I specify in Instagram. So I help coach people how to use Instagram, small businesses mainly, how to get more exposure, how to become, to build a more engaging audience, and just how to utilize the social media to attract more business their way. I've always had an interest in social media since it first came out, really, and it's always been effortless. Like I've never found it, oh, I've got to post on social media. I'm always like really excited to do so on all the platforms, but mainly my jam is Instagram. That's where I love to hang out, because it's just, you can just show up as yourself. There's no front you need to put on, in my opinion. That's how I feel about it. Obviously, I know that not everybody does feel like they can show up as themselves, because there are pressures on social media, but I kind of don't let those pressures get to me. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm now a mum, obviously, of little Elliot. I'm a dog mum to Jasper. I did actually study PE at university because I wanted to be a PE teacher.
Nice.
So I graduated with a 2-1, and then I didn't actually do the qualification to become a teacher within the degree. I'd have to apply for a PGCE to do that for another further year. Mm-hmm. But before I did that, I wanted to go to basically get some actual work experience. So I applied for jobs to work as what we call a cover supervisor, which is like a permanent supply teacher, but you're obviously not a teacher. Mm-hmm. So my job role within that would be to be in the school and cover lessons all the time within that one school. And I did that for 2 years to work out if it's definitely something that I wanted to go down the career route of, and it definitely wasn't for me. So I say
that you learned that early.
I know, I learned that early as well. University was amazing. I found myself there, as people do. I met Michael there, we've been together 10 years now. So
amazing.
Very
long time. Congratulations.
Yeah, very good things have come out of it.
Absolutely.
I love to play sport. I love to play netball, and I used to swim competitively. So yeah, I'm a bit of an all-round kind of chick.
Love it.
that's a little bit about me.
That sounds good. And you mentioned about your social media, and that's where I've come across you. So I was blown away by the openness and rawness
Yeah.
of the page. You have really honed in on owning yourself and what you're about. And I must say, I started following you throughout your pregnancy journey and your motherhood journey. So as we mentioned, you've recently become a mum. So how old is Elliot now?
Today is 14 weeks. So last week he turned 3 months. So it's been a very crazy 3 months, but amazing. Like, just when you think to yourself, and you imagine what motherhood is and like the feelings that you'd have, it's just nothing like you'd ever expect it to be. It's so much better.
I love that. Well, let's start from the beginning then.
Yeah, go on.
So when it comes to pregnancy, so what was that like?
For me personally, I enjoyed every single minute of it. I breezed through, I must say. Like, I didn't have any difficulties. I didn't have struggles, as in my sister struggled with SPD, which is PGP, sorry, pelvic girdle pain. So she suffered with that. I didn't have morning sickness. I felt a little bit sick at the start, but I used to just put like travel bands on my wrists, and I felt like the kind of feeling that when you are hungover, for example, and you're really hungry, and you want to eat but then you can't eat. That's the kind of feeling that I felt. I didn't really go off. I went off a few foods, just a type of food. It wasn't anything that I did, and I didn't have cravings. So I had quite a weird pregnancy, and all the typical things that you'd expect, like morning sickness, cravings, didn't get them. I loved apple juice even more than I did before, but I don't think it was a craving. But I just loved the feeling of him growing inside me. And falling in love with your body in a different way, because you have so much more appreciation for what it's doing. And it still blows my mind that I've done that, and he was in there and now he's not in there and he's here. Honestly, it's just such a weird feeling, because I look at him now and I'm like, how were you in my tummy like 3 months ago? This is weird. And now you're looking at me smiling.
So cute. And I asked you that question because as a female, I actually don't know much, if anything, about pregnancy. So I don't really know what to expect. And when I speak to my mum or my aunts about it, it's quite a kind of a topic which I guess everyone has their own individual journey that they go through pregnancy, and they feel things like, for example, my sister-in-law has had morning sickness, whereas you've just said you haven't.
Yeah.
But the one thing is, she also said to me, my sister-in-law, she said, there are so many things that nobody has told me about that I didn't even know my body goes through.
Yeah.
Did you find that?
Yeah, I massively agree. Like, at first, my boobs absolutely killed, and I couldn't understand. Like, I'd walk to the toilet in the middle of the night and I'd have to hold them. And then it got to a stage where I had to wear a bra or a sports bra because they were that achy. So that was one thing that was really something that I didn't expect to be on that level of pain. Because what I've heard women say, like, your boobs hurt, but not to the extent where I felt like I'd have to walk around holding them to go to the toilet in the middle of the night. You go to the toilet a lot. The typical things that you hear, I just never expected it to be on the level that it actually happens.
How did you learn about it? How did you know? Or did you just kind of go through it as it was happening? Or did you prepare yourself?
That's exactly. I know I didn't do much preparing or reading, or because I started to talk about it openly on my Instagram. Let me just rewind a little bit though, because it links on to what you've asked me. So I used to have just one account on Instagram, and it was just about me, just a blog through my life, like just using social media like everybody does, but on steroids, because I love to use it. And then I decided that I needed to separate my business and the pregnancy blogging. So I think it was April, I set up my Instagram business account, which is called Stress Free Social Media, and that's a separate Instagram account. Then I felt like my audience for social media could go and follow me on that, and then people who wanted to stick around and hear everything about my bump and my pregnancy could stick around for that. And if they wanted to follow me for both, then they could, but I didn't want to bore one audience, because I knew that some people found value from me in one way, and other people wanted to follow me for the pregnancy, so that I had to separate the two. So when I started talking about the pregnancy and going through it and just being so open and honest, I was learning things about my body, but then people would interact with me. Mums would be like, oh, this happened to me and this is how I dealt with it. So because I've been so open, I've learned so many other people's experiences of every stage of their pregnancy and motherhood, and it's helped me learn not just about myself but about other people, so much so that I can now help offer that advice to all my followers in certain ways. So because we had quite a few issues with Elliot with his feeding because he has the cow's milk protein allergy, I know women now mums come to me and say, oh, I know that Elliot suffers from reflux and he's got a cow's milk protein allergy. Could you give me some tips on how to cope with it, or how did you recognise it, and what did you do when you went to the GP? So I've taught them through those things, and then later on they've messaged me and said, thank you so much for being, one, open and honest, two, for giving me advice, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have diagnosed my son or my daughter with this, and would have still been in pain. So with me being so open and honest, it might have been too in your face for some people, but you know what, I'm never going to change. But it's helped so many people on so many different levels, and a lot of people who follow me from a distance, they don't engage with posts, don't like posts, don't comment on anything, don't reply to stories, but I know that it's helping them, because then later down the line they message and I've never noticed them before, but they've followed every single step. And I even get my friends messaging who haven't had children, they just feel so invested in it, and they say thank you so much for your honesty, because I've learned so much as not being a mum already or not being pregnant, and it's given them a massive insight. And a lot of women who have had secret pregnancies and they've asked for advice, obviously.
What do you mean by secret pregnancy?
Secret as in they didn't want to tell anyone they were pregnant yet. So before...
Oh, I see.
So before they were 12 weeks pregnant, for example,
right.
I've had messages of people saying, I'm pregnant, this is how I'm feeling, is this how you felt in the early stage?
It sounds like you've built a really strong network, so for women to come to you as and when needed for advice, tips, and I can see that on your page as well, and you talk about pretty much every kind of issue and everything that you've been through yourself, so it's really nice that people are reaching out to you. How have you been so courageous enough to actually share your stories? Because that's quite difficult. It's your own personal life. There's a lot going on, and you openly share the negativity as well as the positive kind of moments as well, which I really admire. So it's not just all happy days and pregnancy is great. It's no, this has happened, and this can also happen to you.
Yeah. The comfort I've found in just being so honest is that I know that through my struggles and ups and downs that I will definitely still be helping people along the way. And I know it's really cheesy, but I love to help people. So I'm just driven by helping people. So I think that just has always pulled me through. It's just been a way of me dealing with things as well. Like, it's been quite a lonely pregnancy and a lonely start to motherhood, with obviously the circumstances that we're all in. And through me being so honest and speaking out, I've made, like you said, I've made so many friends and built such a lovely, supportive community. So I've never felt like I've been alone, because there's literally always been someone that I could speak to, no matter what time it was as well, because my followers are like all over the world now. Yeah. So, and also when mums are awake at night because they can't sleep because their baby's up, like I always had someone to speak to then. I always had someone to speak to. I always have someone to speak to now. And for me, the community, just that they've kind of pulled me through. And I just think it's always important to speak about anything, especially your struggles.
You mentioned, yeah, exactly. And you mentioned the lonely element. So how have you dealt with this? We're in times now where lockdown, you can't really see many people, so it can get very lonely. So how did you deal with your lonely pregnancy, let's say, as well as entering motherhood? What was that like for you?
So it was nothing that I ever imagined, as in when we found out we were pregnant, I was like, oh my goodness, cannot wait to tell everyone. I can't wait to do a reveal to people. I can't wait to do the gender reveal. I can't wait to have a baby shower, all of these things. And not one of them things I could experience as I'd ever imagined. And Michael couldn't come to any of my appointments, midwife appointments, my NHS scans, he couldn't come to them. Luckily, he was there for the birth. But I think that was because of the way that my labour panned out. We'll probably have a conversation about that, because that was a wild one. I can't remember what I've just literally been talking about. This is an actual fact. It's not a myth. Baby brain is a thing. There's a scientific thing behind it where some of your brain switches off because your mum brain switches on. So you don't use the rest of your brain as much as you use your mum brain. So probably, yeah, honestly, well, I just thought baby brain was when you forget things, but it's actually scientific. There's something where you're more tuned in. Like, I'm subconsciously now thinking in the back of my head, Elliot needs his nappy changing, he needs a feed and all of this. Even though he's fine, he's downstairs with his dad. But I know that part of my brain's more switched on. Go on.
Touched upon your birthing and labour, and you said that was a difficult one. How did that go?
So it was approaching my due date, and Michael tested positive for coronavirus. So obviously he had to isolate, I had to isolate. 2 days later, I went for a test. I tested positive, but I couldn't tell with my symptoms if it was pregnancy related. You know, it was at the end, and I was like, oh, are these leg pains? Because my legs hurt at one point. I was like, oh, right, this might be to do with labour coming on, because it was my due date, so I couldn't really tell. I just had a blocked nose, a bad headache that wouldn't go away, and my legs started to ache. And after that, when I knew I definitely had it, my taste and smell went, so I couldn't taste or smell anything in labour.
Sounds like COVID.
Yeah. So I had COVID. So because of all of that, I was like, right, Michael wouldn't have been able to come into the hospital with me at any point for me if I went into labour any time around my due date, because he was still isolating and they wouldn't let him in hospital. So I had to isolate, so I couldn't have anybody with me. So apart from obviously the midwives and the doctors in the hospital. So I made the decision to have a home birth, and I bought a pool. We blew it up. That was in the living room. I went into labour 6 days after my due date and had him 7 days after, so a full week.
This was at home as well, home birth?
Well, it started off to be a home birth. This is the thing. So it started off to be a home birth. Did all my, there's a thing, this is what I didn't know, there's a thing called the latent phase in labour, which is your contractions before you are 4 centimetres dilated. You're only technically in labour from 4 centimetres. And when you start pushing at 10, that's when it's all systems go. So the latent phase for me was the most difficult phase, because that was the most painful because of the contractions. And at this point, we hadn't even filled the pool. The midwife was assessing me. She said 4 centimetres. But because my waters had broke on the Monday at 3 p.m, I had to have had Elliot pretty much by 24 hours later. Otherwise, when your waters break, this is what I didn't know. When your waters break, you have to have your baby within 24 hours, because there's nothing then around the baby. And then it's an increased risk of infection. So we were against time. So time was running out. And I said, I need some pain relief, because at home, all you can get is paracetamol or gas and air. The gas and air wasn't there because we didn't order it. I hadn't had any paracetamol, so I was like, right, get me, I need something, and I can't carry on like this. Most women will go through that phase of, I can't do it, but you always can, but you have that feeling in your head that you can't do it. So I thought I was at the end of my tether, and the midwife just said, okay, well, let's get you to the hospital. So I left home at 4 centimetres. It's a 15-minute journey to the hospital. Got there. I thought that there would be a wheelchair waiting for me and a red carpet pushing me through, and I'd be like struggling to breathe a little bit with the contractions, but I had to walk from the car to the ward where the delivery suite, having contractions the whole way. So what would have taken 3-4 minutes took about 10-15 minutes because I had to stop every time I had a contraction. So anyway, got there, got on the bed, and I was like, whew, I feel like I need to push. I was 10 centimeters, so from leaving home, I was 4. I got to the hospital, I was 10. So I didn't.
You were ready.
I was ready, so I couldn't even have any pain relief. The only thing I could have was gas and air. So because it was too.
Did that help, the gas and air?
I can't say.
Do you remember?
I can't say
the blur.
I don't think it helped the pain relief. I felt like it was more of a distraction, and I bit on. I was biting on the tube that you put in your mouth. So when I was breathing, I was biting on it as well. So that helped me get through. You know, you might have had some sort of like when you're in pain, you kind of have this aggression in you as well. So I was biting onto that to get me through. So if I can do that, I would just, any women here who are pregnant, who are listening, or who are thinking of having a baby, do it. If I can do it without any pain relief, then you definitely can. And I had Elliot about an hour and a half after getting to hospital.
Quick.
Yeah, it was very quick. And I had an episiotomy because they had. So basically, the consultant had to come in and help assist Elliot because he was getting distressed because he was being monitored on my tummy. So they'd have a strap around my tummy that was listening to his heartbeat and heart rate. And when the consultant came in and saw that he was struggling, he said, I'm going to see how you get on in 10-15 minutes. And if he's not here, then I'm going to have to help. So they did an assisted delivery. They had to give me what's called an episiotomy, which is where they cut into your bum cheek from your vagina. So sorry about this graphic.
That's all good.
But it's educational.
Yeah, exactly.
So they did that because they were doing a von Toos delivery, which is a suction cap. So they put the suction cap on Elliot's head, and they would pull as I was pushing. So sorry, your face is.
Oh, I'm just like, oh, this sounds crazy. I didn't even know this kind of stuff happens. That's why I'm just like, I'm so oblivious to all of this.
But they did numb me to do the cut, so I couldn't feel the cut. But I felt the injection going in to numb it, but I couldn't feel the cut. So don't worry about that part. But he had to assist and help get him out because he was just getting a bit too distressed in there. So they stitched me up afterwards, and I needed gas and air for that because that was very painful. But then everything, it's true what they say, everything just goes. You're on your chest, and you just can't believe what you've just done. Honestly, it's like a bit of an out-of-body experience, even though your body's been through so much. You feel like you've been hit by a train. I hadn't slept for two days. Yeah, I hadn't slept for 2 days because of how long it lasted. And then after that, I didn't sleep for, honestly, 12 days.
Is it because he was up all night?
No, it was more that I couldn't actually physically switch off because I was just laying in bed, like staring at him, like wondering, is he okay? Like I can't go to sleep because I don't want to miss any cues that he needs me or. But then you settle in a little bit more. Obviously, everybody's experience is completely different.
Exactly. How was it holding him for the first time?
I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. I actually got a bit of his poo on my arm because
as soon as he comes out, they do.
He pretty much pooed straight away when he was on my arm. So, and that poo is black. It's like tar. That's the first. Yeah. So I had all that on my arm. I was like, oh gosh, I've got his poo on my arm. But I just couldn't look. I couldn't believe it. I was just looking down on my chest and I was like, me and your dad have made you. I can't believe it.
Wow.
Michael will probably kill me for this, but he burst into tears. He's not emotional. He burst into tears as soon as he came out. I was like, when I was pregnant, I joked to him. I was like, if you don't cry when I have this baby,
No pressure.
I know, because he's not emotional at all. But honestly, he sobbed. But he said it was more like, I can't believe what you've just done.
It's amazing what our female bodies can do, right?
Honestly, yeah. But then your partner has just got this newfound respect, admiration, love. They adore you in a different way because they've seen what you've done to get that baby earthside. Honestly, I loved seeing that, because, and we've actually got pictures of him being that emotional because the midwife took some pictures for us.
So nice.
And it just, that moment in itself was just amazing, because I had our son in our chest. You're a bit bewildered, I'll not lie, like, as a mum, you can't believe what you've just done. And there was some swearing going on from me. I couldn't believe what my body was doing, and it was such a strange feeling. When you push and the head comes out, it's like a relief of all the pressure that's in your tummy. It goes like this. And I was screaming like, what the heck? Like, obviously I didn't say what the heck.
We'll just substitute that word with something else.
Yeah. You could have probably heard me from about 8 rooms away. That's how loud I was screaming. And it was such a strange emotion. Having that, basically, it is like an out-of-body experience, like I've said. You just don't, you can't get your head around what's just happened. And you're in a daze because you're exhausted. Because it is, someone's told me you burn as many calories giving birth and in labour as you would running a marathon.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a lot of calories.
Yeah, a lot of calories. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, the exhaustion is real, and it's warranted by everything that you do go through. So you are in a daze, but it is an amazing feeling having them on your chest. But it is also, you're still very overwhelmed with what's just happened. And
yeah, your body has gone through so much, from becoming pregnant and the baby growing inside you, and then the release, and then you going back to how you were. But I guess it's not quite back to how you were. And a lot of women have that fear, or I guess fear around the changes in your body that you would go through as a woman during these times. How did you deal with that?
So I'm not gonna lie, some days I don't always feel happy and amazing when I look in the mirror, because I'm like, oh, where is the old Kim? Like, I've never ever.
What is the old Kim, or who is the old Kim?
The old Kim, I've always been sporty, athletic, 5'10", a very athletic build. I've got broad shoulders, but I used to get called skinny, and I was bullied at school for being skinny. So for me to have any extra blubber or fat or anything, any rolls or any cellulite and stuff, that is just completely nothing that I've ever had before. So it's getting my head around being a different shape, and my body is wider, and that's not through putting weight on, it's through your body expanding, I suppose. Like, my hips are wider, but I think that happens to a lot of women after giving birth.
Everything kind of reorganizes itself in your stomach, I'm assuming, right? And just your organs and your
it takes quite a while for everything to go down. I think mine went down after about 4 or 5 days. Everything had gone back down, but I'm still wide, as in my hips are wider. Excuse me. But all I'm able to do, because initially I had an episiotomy, so there's a lot of pain that you experience downstairs, like, because you've just been stitched up, and then obviously the pain relief has gone that they've injected you with, and you struggle to kind of walk around. So you can't. I couldn't walk for about 3 weeks properly.
It's a long time.
Yeah, you can't. I couldn't feel like I could stand up. So for me being so active, like, I'm always active. I play netball 4 times a week, walking all the time, and walking the dog, going to the gym. All of those things completely stopped for 9 months, but then also stopped. I was still walking while I was pregnant. But when you're used to all of that activity, and then going from absolutely sitting down on the couch, and then it being locked down, and then you're not being able to go and exercise because the gyms are shut. But I wasn't in a rush to get back to the gym and work out in that sense. But for me now, it's such a tonic for me to get outside and get on a walk, because I know it's good for me mentally. I know it's good for me to get fresh air. I know it's good for me physically, but it's just that is actually the only me time I have, even though I'm with Elliot.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a struggle because you're almost like, as you said, you were lean, you were active, slim build, and then you're almost going through this pregnancy, and then you gain a little bit more weight, and then after the pregnancy, it's pretty much the whole body's just changed its composition almost. That's quite a challenge, isn't it? Also to think about it mentally, if you're so used to yourself for the last however many years, 30 years, and then all of a sudden there's this change in your appearance.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's not as if like you in your head you think, oh, I'll just put something baggy on, but the baggy things when you of your old size don't fit. You know, like I was still wearing my pregnancy clothes for ages. Like I still wear pregnancy leggings now because they're the only things that'll kind of fit me. But I'm only just now at a size for me, a body size that I'm not going to waste money on clothes, and I can still probably fit in them if I do lose weight. I didn't want to be buying myself a full new wardrobe. Like I'm a size 10, but because I'm quite broad, sometimes I am a 12. So I'm getting 12s now. So I have gone up a size, but I've put, I don't know, I'm not really someone who weighs themselves too much, but I weighed myself to weigh how much Elliot weighed because I've not seen anyone. So I weighed myself and weighed myself with Elliot to work out his weight. And I got on the scales. This is bad. I got on the scales and Michael went, that can't be right. I'm 13 stone. That can't be right. Because at this point, I was 13 and a half stone. And he was like, can't be right that because I'm only 13. And I was like, oh my God, it is right. It's right. I'm 13 and a half stone. So in my head, I'm thinking I'm massive. So because I associated those numbers with a size that I imagine myself to look. Like I don't look like I'm 13 and a half stone. I'm not that anymore. But I don't know how much I weigh. But I know I've lost weight because my body shape's changed. But I've not weighed myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What would you say to women who are struggling to accept the cellulite and the extra body weight and the change in shape of their body? Because a lot of women are conscious of these things, and that comes with pregnancy and birth, right? As we've discussed. So if someone's really struggling with that, what would you say to them? What advice would you give?
I would advise, firstly, it's not forever. You won't be in this state of body image or feeling forever. You will not. Like I know I won't always be in this condition because I'll do something about it. I don't want to be like this because I don't feel physically fit. I don't really go off as much what I look like. It's how I feel. And for me, if I'm putting my knickers on now and I've got like a bit of an overhang on my knickers, like my knickers are digging in me, I'm like, well, that doesn't feel nice. So I'm going to do something about it. It's not like what I look like in the mirror. I would go off how you feel like and use that as a goal rather than what you look like. So you want to feel better.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at an image across to you, because that image is not always going to be.
Yeah, because a lot of women are hard on themselves, thinking we need to be back to our original weight, like 6 weeks or whatever, however many weeks straight after pregnancy. Or they're looking at all these kind of celebrities or whoever on social media thinking they've just had a kid and yet they're back to their size 6. And it's that added pressure to be like, well, you know, I'm this size and how am I going to be comfortable in my own skin? So yeah, that's fair, isn't it? It's how you feel.
Yeah, I do get a lot of messages about like how do you cope with that? Like you just ask, and I've said to them like, don't look at other people because they're not you. They've not got your sleep, because sleep is a massive factor of any kind of recovery, and you're not getting sleep. You're not recovering like you need that in a healthy lifestyle. You don't have as much sleep when you're a mum. Just watch what you're doing. So water intake. Try and get active, try and get on walks every day. That is your only source of really exercise, especially in the current climate with all the gyms closed. I would just advise just to be as active as possible, just to get out of the house, get the fresh air, because that's good for your mental health.
Yeah.
And you get a feeling of accomplishment. Michael actually bought me my AirPods, earphones, and an Apple Watch, because I said to him, this wasn't a hint, by the way, but it was my push.
This is how you do it, ladies.
Yeah, it is. I hinted in the past and I said, hey, do you know that women get push presents for like pushing the baby out? And he was like, no, they don't. That's a lie. That is a lie. So anyway, one day, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks after having Elliot, he came in the room and Elliot had like a little apple bag. No, not an apple bag. A little gift bag dangling off his wrist. And that was the AirPods.
Oh, I love it.
And Michael and had got me the Apple Watch because I'd said, I'm going to treat myself to an Apple Watch because I want to start tracking my steps, and I don't want to be glued to my phone as much, so I can look on my phone if I've got a notification or anything, and then I can just track my mobility and stuff. And he treated me to that, and my watch is my accountability partner. Like, it's really helped me because I can look at the map of what I've walked as well, and it's such a sense of achievement and accomplishment, and that's really good for my mental health. Like today, I committed that I was going to go on a walk, but it was raining, and I talked myself out of it. But I said, no, Kim, you've got him ready. He's in the pram. It's raining. Just
get the umbrella out.
Well, you can't when you're pushing a pram. So I was pushing the pram, walking the dog at the same time. But I got out there. I was out there for an hour. I was a drowned rat, but I felt amazing. So advice would be get on walks, drink as much water as possible, try and get moving somehow. Don't compare yourself to other people and just watch what you're eating. Like, it is easier to order a takeaway and stuff. If anybody asks you, do you need any help, say yes please. Would you
take all the help you need? Yeah,
take all the help that people offer, and ask them, would you be able to bring me some food, or do you mind cooking us a meal? Like, my best friend brought lasagna round.
But we also struggle with that, for asking for help, because then there's almost that perception of, oh, is she a good mum? Does she need help? Almost. I know a few women who have gone through that. So it's almost like, if people are offering, take it. Just say yes.
Yeah, take it, because you're not gonna take the mick out of them. You're not gonna ask them, oh yeah, do this, this, and this every single day. You're not gonna do that. And so many people will be at your beck and call because they know what you've been through. They know what situation you're in. They know what's happening outside with lockdown as well at the moment. If you're expecting soon, you are going to get a lot of offers of help. So just accept it. Because you never know until you're in that situation how much it does help. So
I agree.
The body image thing, just don't compare yourself, and just get in your head that you're not always going to be this way if you're not happy about it.
There's always changes that you can make.
Yeah, there is. Just always appreciate your body for what it's done and what it's given you, and just always revert back to looking at your little bundle of joy, and you remember it doesn't matter.
And I love that. I couldn't agree more. That's really good advice. And I can assume that you don't really get much time to yourself, let's say, when having a baby. So how would you, or what's been your self-care routine? How do you actually put yourself first at times, just for your own mental health?
I'm going to be honest, not very often. And this is something that I'm working on, because I've found this last lockdown the hardest, because more than anything, I want to share with the world physically my son. I want people to, they're like, oh, I can't wait for a cuddle. And I'm like, well, when is that cuddle going to be? Because the restrictions he's going to be about 18 months old by the time you can cuddle him. Like, I want people to cuddle him now, and they can't. The only self-care that I'm having at the moment is going on that walk, even though I'm still with Elliot. But that, for me, that's the thing that looks after my head, my thoughts. Like, whatever's going on in your head, you can kind of put a podcast on, switch off, put some music on, switch off, put the headphones on, and you're in your own zone. And I kind of feeling like it's empowering, because it's me and my little one, just me, Jasper and Elliot. We're on our walk, like, and I feel really proud. Like, I'm pushing a baby around that is mine, that I birthed, I grew. You just fit, it's really empowering pushing a pram. I'm not gonna lie, I've never really thought about this, but saying it out loud, that's how I feel. I feel empowered that I've done all that, and that it's a bit like your trophy. Like, no one can see your baby, but they know that you've got baby in front of you. Like,
yeah, because you've got a pram.
Yeah, I did this. So that's the only kind of self-care that I have. And actually, this now, speaking to you on this podcast, this is like probably the only hour that I've, even though I've been talking about everything baby related and Elliot related, I'm not with him now, but it's this is kind of nice. That sounds awful, but you do feel like as a mum, you have to always be there every second. The only person I've left him alone with is Michael, my partner, because I don't really feel ready to leave him with anyone yet, because he's only 3 months old, but that's the only kind of self-care I have. This morning, Michael got up and sorted Elliot out and did the whole breakfast, made his own breakfast and stuff, and he sorted Jasper, fed Jasper, then fed Elliot. So I got up, got showered, actually washed my hair in that shower. Like sometimes it's just a quick shower, but I washed my hair and I put makeup on and I put a new outfit on, and I was like, who is this woman? Like,
oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. And I will say, treat yourself to some little bits of a new wardrobe. Like, don't go mad. Like, I felt amazing this morning because I put a new jumper on. So just a small little thing like that, I felt like that was a bit of self-care. But I will say, try and have a bit of self-care where you're journaling maybe, or you're reading a book, that you're taking your mind somewhere else, that you're not constantly thinking about when you can do your next feed, or when you're going to prep the bottles, and when you're going to change the nappy, restock everything, take all the nappies out, put them in the bin, wash the clothes, fold the clothes. Oh my goodness, there's so much more you've got to do when you're a mum. Like the washing.
Got to get your mind off these things, have some self-care.
Yeah, so I'm working on that. So the only self-care at the moment really is the walk. And then this morning felt like self-care, but that's just a normal thing that you do. And
so it's all included in. That's all good.
Yeah, I know.
And what have been your motherhood highlights?
Motherhood highlights. I cannot get out of my head his smiling face. Honestly, when they smile, it's so amazing. I can't even tell you. Like, we had the front room decorated at the weekend, and we were putting everything back together on Sunday night, and he was just in his bouncer just watching me, and Michael just put the curtains back up, and I looked round and I went, "Ah, yeah," and he just did this massive beaming smile. Just the smiles just give you so much life, and you're like, "Oh my God!"
I love that.
You're just the cutest little thing. I love you so much, and it just gets you just so unbelievably happy. That's a highlight. All the smiles. Try and have a bath with your baby, because that's amazing. It's a lovely feeling. And then actually this morning I changed dirty nappy, and I said to Michael, he was in the shower, I said, "Have you nearly finished?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Right, I'm going to put Elliot in with you, because we've got a temperature gauge on the shower." So he held him in the shower while we put him in the shower, put the shower head over his body, and he loved it. Bath time's really cute. I love that.
You are just loving and owning being a mother, aren't you? I love it. I can just feel your happiness and your passion for it, and how much you love him. It's really nice to see and hear.
I will be honest though, at first, because I was so exhausted and tired, I was thinking to myself, do I not love him? I can't feel that, because I was that tired. I didn't know what my true emotions were, and I was so hormonal. And there is a thing called baby blues that hit you on like day 3 or 5. Usually when
is that the same as postnatal depression, or is that something different?
No, it's something different. Like baby blues is when you can't kind of stop crying. You're so emotional, everything triggers you. But
this is normal? This is quite common?
Yeah, especially when your milk comes in. That's a very common thing that the midwives say, expect on day 3 to 5 to feel lower emotionally.
Okay.
And it actually was a thing. I was like, "Oh, I'm fine. And then it was day 5 for me. I was like, "Oh my God, I feel really low." Like,
how are you feeling? Can you describe it?
I was quite numb. That's basically how I was feeling, numb. Like, I've had anxiety in the past, and been very low, and it felt very similar to that. You kind of feel like you're out of control of. You can't snap yourself out of it, and I was like, and I couldn't understand why I was crying and feeling sad when I had such an amazing little thing in front of me.
Yeah.
And then that made me question, did I love him? But I was overcompensating and trying to do all of these other things and worrying and putting pressure on myself and feeling guilty about things that I couldn't see that was my love for him, because I was over worrying, and
It sounds like there's a lot going on, so it can be quite overwhelming, I would say. How do you deal with that? Because I'm sure that's quite a constant feeling of overwhelm.
Yeah, excuse me, I just had a drink. It's just constant with your hormones, your tiredness, your worry that you're doing the right thing. Just know that this mother's instinct that people talk about, you've got it. I can't believe how strong it is. You just know what to do for your baby, and they're massively in tune with you. So that's that feeling as well. Like when I look at him, I can physically feel how much he loves me. I can feel the love. And the way he looks at me, I know he loves me. But it's because you and your baby you were together for so long, and they know you. So when you look at them, like you kind of, the overwhelm goes, because you're like, wow, like you're mine, kind of thing. I'm getting lost on the question again, because I can't believe how much I love him.
That's so nice. That's absolutely fine. You get lost in your thoughts. You're just like envisioning him and thinking of him. So it's really nice.
I am.
So it definitely sounds like it's all worth it. So tell me, would you be doing this again?
Oh God, yeah. Like honestly, this is the strangest thing. The pushing part of labour isn't painful. It's more of a relief. It's the contractions that are difficult, and I did hypnobirthing and breathing techniques that helped me through that, which I would recommend massively. If you want to
how can people learn more about that?
Message me. There's a lady I use called Anya, Hypnobirthing with Anya, and it's Anja. She's got a course. She's just amazing. She's really calming. She really helped me through it. You can do a course with her. The one that I did was an online course that I did through an app on my phone called Teachable. I massively recommend that. But
is it just helping your mindset with when you're going through labor? Yeah. Is that what it's all about? Yeah,
kind of getting you through the contractions. So breathing technique. I think it was breathing for 7, out for 4.
Okay, so there's little techniques of how you go through this hypnobirthing, right?
Yeah, and like you kind of imagine a contraction is like a wave. Like you're going up, there's a peak where it's worse, and then when you hit that peak, you know that it's going to ease, and you're breathing yourself through that pain, and then it stops for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then you start riding that wave again. And Michael massively helped me through all of those things, and he reminded me of the hypnobirthing. So involve your partner in that as well, because he kept bringing me back down. He was like, Kim, come on, you're not breathing properly. Get your breathing right. And
you know what? We haven't discussed him much, but he sounds like such a great partner, so supportive and so caring and loving. So so you're really lucky. Like, it's nice that you've got someone who's there who's just as supportive as he is.
Oh, he's been brilliant, because at the start, with the me obviously saying that I can't stand up a lot with the pain that I was in, he was mum and dad for 2 weeks. Honestly,
amazing.
I didn't change a nappy. I fed him because Michael would kind of pass him to me. That's a whole nother topic of conversation. But I ended up bottle feeding, even though I wanted to breastfeed. But it didn't end up being a path that I could go down because of so many different obstacles. But wanted to breastfeed and ended up bottle feeding. But so Michael was doing all the bottles, sterilising all of them, doing all my breast pump for me, because I was trying to do that as well. Changing him, doing his nappies,
and
all the clothes on him. I didn't know anything, and he had to teach me how to do all of those things. Like,
super dad.
Yeah, it was amazing. So they do need credit. Like, they've actually been through a massive thing as well as you have, because he was like, I just can't believe what you've done and what you've been through, because it looks so painful. And as a woman, when you're in that you're in the zone, you don't feel the pain as it must be hard for them to see you in pain. Yeah, and I know it is painful having done it, but I've forgotten about that pain. But I think they'll probably never forget that, watching the partner go through that kind of thing. But yeah, he has been absolutely incredible.
Love it. That's it. You just need yourself a good, strong partner there. It's nice to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's been so amazing having you on this podcast. I've really, really enjoyed speaking to you. I feel like I've learned a lot more than I ever knew about motherhood and pregnancy. So it's been really great. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been amazing to chat.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Fearless Females Voice podcast. Be sure to join our Facebook group called Fearless Females and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye for now.